This is Rodney McGee.
And I am Alfie Williams.
And you are listening to Rodney and Alfie Talk Metal.
Anyway, let's talk some metal. We've been talking about new releases, and I wanted to gauge your opinion on the new Ozzy Osbourne track. And I don't know if you'd like me to expand upon what I think.
Yeah, man. Go ahead and lead in with that. I'd be curious to hear it.
Okay. I was very surprised. It's the typical Ozzy sound in terms of his vocals and that kind of thing. And I'm sure you agree, his vocals these days are heavily processed. And you can sort of just hear that, I don't know, it just doesn't sound human, for lack of a better word.
Dude, his vocal tracks have been better analyzed than the Kennedy assassination footage.
It's really weird because in terms of the engineering aspect of the track, it doesn't sit right with me. I don't really like the mix, but in terms of the song composition, I find it quite catchy and almost a bit like a guilty pleasure. It has some really nice melodic phrasing, for lack of a better word. It's a good single, but again, if I was to analyze it as a musician, I don't like the mix. And to my surprise earlier, there's actually a 7-minute version, the original version. Mm-hmm. The 7-minute one goes on way too long, and I think that's just to make the most of Jeff Beck being in there doing the guitar stuff.
Yeah, I would assume so.
And I don't mind call and answer. Like, you know, when you have a vocalist singing something and there's an answer with a guitar or another vocal or a backing vocal, all fine. But in this song, especially that extended version, maybe it's the original version, Ozzy sings and then there's a guitar noodle. Ozzy sings, guitar noodles, like, just shut up. It's just driving me mad. It's just like, it doesn't sit well in the mix anyway. And I take it you weren't really, I don't want to infer anything, but I guess you weren't particularly paying attention to the song if you could help it. Is that right? Is that fair?
No, the song wouldn't let me because it was boring me to the point that I thought I was going to slip into a coma. So I started getting nervous. Yeah, I have basically the opposite opinion. It is just everything that I'm tuned not to enjoy.
What way? Tell me more.
Well, I feel like it's easy listening done by Ozzy.
Yes.
It's not slow enough to be heavy, and it's not fast enough to be aggressive. It's just that tempo that defies you to hold your attention on it. It's just this kind of and for especially the type of vibe he's going for on this track and the imagery with it, especially, he has absolutely destroyed his cachet with that stuff. I mean,
yeah.
Basically, I see this, and there's a couple musical parts that, you know, I found annoying too that I'll talk about in a minute, but him trying to kind of dip back into Diary of a Madman. Yeah. It's like, I don't buy that from you anymore. You've turned yourself into a buffoon. He's like Grandpa Simpson with long hair. Mm-hmm. So I'm not getting that this is calculated crap to me. And again, you know, like there's a kind of spooky, cleaner guitar part that sounds suspiciously like the interlude section to Diary of a Madman before the guitar solo. And it's like, you know, trying to do callbacks to that type of thing or reestablish, ooh, I'm the madman of metal. No, you're not. You're a guy with Yorkie puppies who falls off a lawn carts and things. I found the melody lines boring. The song structure was, I mean, like I could tell what the next chord change was going to be every time before he hit it.
Yeah.
Just milquetoast and boring. Just like what he turned his legacy into. Yeah. Sorry. And him just, I feel like he's trying to Stranger Things me. You know, it's like, oh, remember this? Remember this? Like, yeah, I do. And it's sad that I have to remember that. Like this, an utterly unmemorable song for me. And the worst part to me is if this is what you pulled as the single to get everybody excited about, like this is your big, hey, check this album out, dude. If the rest of the album is secondary to this, if this is your standout, you need to stand down. This is bad.
I agree with quite a lot of what you're saying, and what stood out to me is calculated. I think that's probably what I was going for. It's calculated in every sense of the song, the chord progression, the melodies, the mix, the parts. It's all so milquetoast, as you would say. And I think you're right. There is that element of trying to get that vibe of Diary of a Madman and making it modern, but I don't get that. I'm struggling to find who his audience is. It's too nice, for lack of a better term, for his hardcore fans.
Yeah, but that's what I think is being calculated. Is he is? I mean, younger people don't remember Diary and stuff like that. I mean, well, actually, I'm surprised at how many do sometimes. But the people who really love those albums, they're all much older now.
Yeah.
And they probably, this is the metal they still listen to. They're not listening to new stuff. So he just gave them the more palatable version of it. It's like, you're older and more milquetoast now. So here's the older and more milquetoast Diary of a Madman.
Oh, don't do that to me. That's terrible. Okay. I mean, he can't do that whole madman thing forever. Of course not. And we've seen that. I get it, but the thing with his music is, for the past, I'm going to say like 10, 15 years, it feels like he's put out the same single where it feels like he's winding down, which is fine, but it's just the same thing. It's just getting mellower and mellower. And it feels like, oh, this must be his last song now, the same with the last tours. And even on YouTube, you scroll down, he's touring again. So how many times is he going to stop touring, like the farewell tour? Like, I don't mind, but it just feels like he doesn't even know what he wants to do. And
he doesn't. And he doesn't even think about it, because Sharon's going to ride him like a beaten mule until there is not a penny left in his corpse.
No.
And I feel no sympathy for him. He doesn't have to say yes to any of this shit.
No.
And, I don't have a good opinion of them as businessmen or people or anything else at this point. And I loved Ozzy coming up. I mean, I still worship those first few albums, but I don't give him very much credit for them. And I think this song backs that up. And it just shows that without those players, he's just going to write, this is like, that Kenny G metal. I just don't, ugh. Yeah.
That's the other thing. Do you want to finish your point?
Oh, no. And just the balls to take something like that and try and put out a 7.5 minute song like your fucking Dream Theater or something.
No.
One part, I literally thought that they forgot to cut it off and like a different song started. It was like, this wasn't a 7.5 minute song. This was 7.5 minutes of parts you threw together.
Yeah.
And it just didn't work or fit,
What's your take on the Jeff Beck thing? Because I'll be honest, I don't know much about him other than, the Yardbirds thing and that, and I don't really pay attention to guitarists generally. He's not my vibe at all. Is he more of a rock guitarist, isn't he? Rock and roll kind of thing?
I would say even getting into fusion and things.
Right.
Yeah, he's a phenomenal player. He's a legend for a reason. He really is great. I don't get this collaboration. Really don't. I mean, he did interesting stuff on it, but sure. It's just, there's a lot of amazing musicians I don't think need to do guest spots on some stuff.
No.
I also don't think, like a world-class flamenco player needs to sit in with Testament. Okay, sure. Again, I feel like it's one of those things of just trying to grab, again, that older audience, guitar nerds try and go, hey, remember when Ozzy had the guitar gods and me? Remember when? Remember? And so he's just pulling in favors from friends, and I'm like, it's like you're trying to pull from the hip hop formula, of like guest featuring, guest starring, just to slap someone's name on to get them to come into your thing. And it's like, that to me almost reeks of that. That means the name Ozzy doesn't pull enough.
Oh, okay.
You're having to, remember Jeff Beck? Yeah, you want to hear Jeff Beck play with Ozzy, don't you? Remember these guys? Yeah, I remember them, and they're all still relevant.
You brought me onto a point of, how most metal fans now are somewhere between our ages. They go to concerts with their family, with their children. This kind of feels like the same thing. We say, hey, I used to listen to Ozzy Osbourne as a kid. Maybe you're like this too, son or daughter. It just sort of, it feels like it's sort of like passing it on in a way, or giving you the opportunity. Like, you wouldn't give them Crazy Train. Well, you and I would, but if your wife isn't too much into metal, you say, well, they can like this. It's not too wild. He's not biting the heads off bats and stuff like that. It's
exactly. Yeah, it's the dumbed down Lifetime channel, version of Ozzy. And I mean, the melody line, simplistic, and it's like a kid's rhyme. I
don't like that.
Just hang it up, man. Just you should have let the stuff go. You didn't know when to stop, and it shows.
Rodney, he had a song, he ain't ever gonna stop. But this,
yeah,
I just remember that song, the one that came out like 15 years ago. I ain't ever gonna stop, or whatever that was. This is the same message. Like, I ain't ever gonna stop. I ain't giving up. It's like he's saying the same message, and that's what I don't get about him. Look, going back to what I said of, it's like he's winding down. I ain't ever gonna stop, and I'm not giving up. Like, I don't know what he's aiming for, and that's where I get a bit confused.
Just aiming for money. That's all it is at this point. There is no other motivation.
That's the Occam's razor. Like, of course, yeah, and he can, because that's phoning it in. You get someone to write a simple track for you, and
yeah, he didn't write any of this shit.
No, I don't think he's written anything for a long time.
No, not for a very, very long time.
No.
But yeah, I mean, I feel like it's kind of beating a horse that I've been, beating on since the early 90s. Basically, after about, I'll even give him up to No More Tears. After that point, I was just kind of like, okay, dude, what do you want at this point? You're not getting better.
No.
Every album is successively more milquetoast and boring. And now it's like he's circled back and he's going to do his legacy album. I'm the crazy, fucking mentally unstable old man. Yeah, but now it's for real and it's called dementia.
Right.
What's the next track on the album? My diaper's full. Stop. Just, yeah, it's what unfortunately, what I expect out of somebody still clinging. I'm just going to give you a lame version of the stuff that was me in my heyday.
Would you prefer to them to bow out, or are you happy for them to ride it into the grave, pretty much?
What he does with his career, see, I'm not one of those people that will sit there and go, well, he should do this, or, it's none of my business. I don't have to listen to it. I don't get upset about that stuff. Yeah. All I do know, though, is it's, every time he does it, it diminishes his legacy to me. It's like, how many dollars do you need, man? You just bought a castle, for Christ's sake. I mean, seriously, when do you go, I want to have my self-respect, or what I have left of it. And so I can only say in my case, I would have hung it up 6 albums ago.
Mm-hmm.
Or I would have sucked it up and said, told my wife to shut the hell up and hired some real ass kickers to write some music with and gone at it that way. But he, hasn't done either one. But, it's his career. He can do whatever the hell he wants to. So I'm not going to sit there and say, he should do this or he should do that. I'm just not going to tune in for it. It's tedious.
Yeah, it's just I really feel like I'm in a strange position because I think I said to you earlier, it feels like a guilty pleasure. I don't want to like it, and of course that verse bit, that it is a bit childish. I like the chorus, but I tune out of the guitar stuff. I'm not a fan of guitar noodling. I don't like that. I think it's just the chorus for me. The video, I've seen that like 100 million fucking times of this crazy goth guy, not just Ozzy, just generally speaking, the pills and all that. I don't know. I don't care.
Exactly. It's played out. And when you do that and you don't realize it's played out, that's when it's like, okay, these are bad times. You're so disconnected. You don't even realize that not only is this your shtick from like 40 years ago, but it's been thousands of other bands' shtick too.
Right.
And nobody, Billie Eilish is doing this stuff, in a pop thing of like, I'm the weirdo, crazy girl, sad, gothy, weird thing. It's so overdone. Nobody believes it anymore unless you're like a 13-year-old girl. Yeah, I don't know what else to say about it. It's just like, it's over and it's done. And you're not only not understanding it, but you're giving us the adult contemporary version of it. It's like seeing your parents buying clothes at Hot Topic. Like, what are you doing, man?
I think the last word on this, I feel like he's riding his legacy, but instead of adding to it or sustaining it, it feels like it's diminishing a little bit, where I don't want to say, I'm not like a hardcore fan or anything, but an enthusiast of Ozzy Osbourne, for lack of a better word, would go, he's really letting go a bit and letting that legacy diminish.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe he doesn't, maybe they think, oh, everyone loves this. This is Ozzy. Ozzy does this. This is what Ozzy does. And like, yeah, but it's getting a bit tiresome now, and not so much.
Yeah, absolutely. He's riding the legacy, but the oil light's on, the tires are going flat, the timing belt's ready to strip off, and he's just gonna grind the gears until the thing just won't go any further. And it's like, I don't want to be around for the ugly ending. So you do you, Ozzy. I'm gonna block most of your history out of my memory and just think about how great Bob Daisley was. So that guy kind of wraps that one. But but on the new side of things, and again, just such strange stuff that goes on with this band, and probably more to say about it. Megadeth has a new single out, and that one is We'll Be Back Part 1.
So there will be a Part 2,
I guess, or that's maybe the part for the movie. Like they did a more movie video type of thing. I like this song. Yes, audience, I liked something. It was interesting to me on a few notes, which we'll get into, but it also made me nervous because I liked it.
Okay.
Megadeth has a history with me, and I think probably with a number of other longer term fans, where we get like the bait and switch sucker punch.
Yeah, that feels like Megadeth to me.
Yeah, they come back and they're like, this album is so heavy. that light cannot escape the CD's surface. And, you know, they advertise all this and they put out a first sample, like, the time that enraged me the most. And like, I feel like they got me the worst was when Endgame came out and they put out, This Day We Fight. And that song actually has some similarities to this one, which spooked me a little bit too. It was fast and mean and aggressive. And I was like, holy shit, they are back. This is it. This is done. And then the album came out and I went, what a load of crap. Not one of the other songs stood up to it. Some of the lamest stuff I think they've ever done. So it's like they pull me back in with like that first crack dose of like speed metal. And then they hand me like, oh, you know, just everything I found boring from their career on the rest of the album. Which the one exclusion I'll give them is, at least on the last one, Dystopia, I didn't like the songs all that much, but the album wasn't this meh kind of thing that they did on the other ones. It was like, okay, it had some consistently aggressive material on it. I'm just not charmed by it.
Yeah.
But this song, I feel like, well, one, they better not do this to me again. They do it again, I'm hunting down Mustaine. I'm like, no, you have broken the contract too many times. Somebody's got to whip your ass, man. This is not fair to do. But I found it interesting in that there's songwriting in it, which, you know, I've been howling about for ages, these riff salad bands and stuff.
Yeah.
But it's fast, it's aggressive, and it has the trademark Megadeth production in it, which is this strange, like very narrow, very tight thing. Like there is no sub in a Megadeth album.
No, there's.
It's like, I think they have, you know, like no signal below 100 hertz. It's just not happening. But that's what they do. You know, they have this incredibly tight, focused thing straight down the middle, but I can hear elements of different points in the career. You know, I can hear pieces of Peace Cells in it. I can hear actually not so much Rust in Peace, but I can hear pieces of like Countdown to Extinction. A little like more when Mustaine started allowing a bit more of like the bluesier riffs kind of go into it and stuff. And then even some newer metal influences, like after the breakdown and the chug part, that's something I haven't heard from any era from them. Like those specific style staggered rhythms. I'm like, I haven't heard that. That's a more modern connotation of things.
Yeah.
So I just kind of went, bravo. You know, it's like you gave me a little bit of the old, you gave me a bit of mid Megadeth, you gave me a little skin of my teeth at points, a little, again, you know, even pulling from This Day We Fight on Endgame, you gave me a little bit of new, and you boxed it into a tight, you know, gave me it in a short package, and it just delivered it. And I can remember the chorus and good riffs. And it was like there were all the speed metal cues in it. Shreds in between vocal parts, you know, lots of guitar lead stuff going on, fast as shit drums, super fast lead in to get you kicked into it, a groove section, dark lyrics. I'm like, this is the stuff 14-year-old Rodney signed up for. You know, this was, yes, I accept this. Thank you, sir and or madam. I will buy this. But like I said, it does leave me minorly nervous because I'm almost like, I feel like the bar is now getting high enough. It's like, if he pulls out the rug at this point, man, that's a long fall. So what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I agree with most of what you said. The only part I disagree with is the chorus. And I listened to it earlier this afternoon when you suggested it. And then I listened to it again just before we spoke. I can't remember the chorus. I can't remember how it goes. I have no idea. So I can't remember it. So it
I'll give you a
doesn't.
quick hint. It goes, "We'll be back."
It's not ringing any bells for me, but
Oh, okay.
listening to
It's the
it,
title of the song. Yeah, don't worry about it.
I know sonically. For me, I too have a bit of a weird relationship with Megadeth. I can pick them up and put them down. I'm not a massive fan. I like the singles. I don't really get invested in the albums. I'm not a massive fan in that respect. And usually if Mustaine comes on, I say Mustaine, if they come on and Mustaine is singing, which is usually the case, he sounds like the Dying Cat Parade, and I go, oh, just turn that shit off. Like he has good days and bad days, and more often than not, I just want it to be over.
Wow.
But with this song, I was really surprised. I thought it was very good. He was tolerable, to put a positive spin on it. I enjoyed listening to him singing, and it was much more melodic and musical.
Yeah,
Like
he's definitely, and I think it's probably a smart move on his part that he's brought the range of what he's doing down.
Yes.
And he's singing lower in his register. I don't know that he was always capable of doing it. The way he used to deliver things was this very upper range nasal type of thing.
Yeah.
So he still sounds identifiably Mustaine, but there's a little more ass under there, you know, giving him some richness and stuff, and it's a bit more palatable. So yeah, I think you're right on about that.
I think that's for the better, because I don't. Of course, it makes him identifiable as a singer and a musician, the way that he sings. But like I say, I can take it or leave it. I don't like it. But in terms of the mix, I thought the mix was really good. I didn't have any issue with that. I could hear the bass, the kick, everything, the guitars. The guitars didn't outsay their welcome, even for Megadeth. I liked it. I just thought it was a very good, tight song. Like you say, in a really nice, sweet package. Didn't overstay its welcome. I didn't get bored. It was constantly moving around, but not in a frenetic kind of way. It was good. I don't have that relationship to a Megadeth song, not even since like the early stuff. I wasn't really too hot on the video. I thought the video was like, again, I've seen these tropes before. Oh, but that reminds me of something we mentioned with Ozzy, where it feels like there's a lot of metal hallmarks. There's not much originality. And I can't remember what my point was, but not in a negative way, but I feel like this song takes all the hallmarks and sort of says, well, here's our take on that. And this is what we're doing with it. And to tie that in, I hear a little bit of Testament. I hear a little bit of Slayer and a little bit of Metallica Spit Out the Bone from Death Magnetic. I kind of feel like there's this modern thrash element in there. And when I say modern thrash, I just kind of mean a little bit of what Metallica were doing on Death Magnetic, and again, Testament. And that's the flavors I was picking up on that.
Yeah, I heard less that maybe it's because, you know, I've been a bigger and longer term Megadeth fan, but
yeah,
to me, they were very characteristic Megadeth riffs. Like I could hear the songs that were being pulled from, you know, Skin of My Teeth, you know, This Day We Fight, a little bit of Black Friday. Like I could hear the, you know, the legacy of what was going on in there. And I think it's probably not a long shot to say a lot of the bands that you were talking about pulled from Megadeth.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah.
You know, so,
yeah.
You know, it's kind of like going full circle on that when it's like you're identifying Megadeth's influence on bands that are,
right,
you know,
right.
Megadeth is cannibalizing itself. But
what's the lineup situation like in Megadeth? So I know Ellefson isn't in it at the moment.
Yeah,
he was working on the album 18 months, 2 years ago.
For people who don't kind of know the full situation, basically the quick rundown was that Ellefson was back in the band full time. There was a kind of a scandal thing that he had that on social media and whatnot. And so he got cut from the band. They had someone come in, which I'm going to do a victory lap on this one in a minute. But they had one bassist, strangely enough, record the album. and then they had another bassist come in who is now his full-time replacement. So strangely, funny enough that you say Testament, Steve DiGiorgio from
Yes.
Testament actually recorded the album.
Interesting.
And I had people fight me on this one. I called this ages ago before Mustaine announced it, before and there were any pictures. I said it's DiGiorgio. I had put a few pieces together and a little bit of, extra info and stuff. And I'm like, it's him. I know it's in. And when Lomenzo, James Lomenzo is now the full-time bassist, who was the bassist before, and we'll get into that. For Megadeth, everybody was like, oh, see, it was James Lomenzo. I'm like, it wasn't him on the album, man. I'm telling you. And everybody tried to tell me I was wrong. I'm never wrong. Ever. I was right. That is it. Period. Lomenzo, he's in, but only for touring. DiGiorgio did the album. I am the all-knowing, all-seeing eye of metal. You cannot escape me. I was right. Worship me or die.
Do you know why? Obviously, Lomenzo's been in there before. Mm-hmm. Why would he not record it? Any ideas on why that is?
The best assessment from info I've looked at is that basically Mustaine wanted to kind of immediately, because Ellefson had already tracked most of the album, if not the whole album, if I'm not mistaken. And I think he basically just wanted to kind of Clorox bleach the whole Megadeth thing of Ellefson's presence. And he started searching around for who's the hot shit person right now while he considered what he wanted to do. He kind of looked at the album first and then touring later and a full-time replacement. And he said in one interview that the name DiGiorgio just kept coming up. So he contacted him and that was it. So I think he set that as an objective first and then thought about, who would be the permanent touring replacement. But yeah, so Lomenzo's back in the band and he's, the full-time bassist. But yeah, I think that was kind of the end thing is Mustaine just wanted to kind of, pull a, burn the documents, wipe everything clean type of situation and then figure it out as he went. But this brings up the secondary and really strange thing about Megadeth is that we all know the lineup changes. I mean, he's had more guitarists than, a groupie at the Rainbow at 2 a.m. But they all seem to just kind of go away when they're done. But, you look at the history of it, and while it's less basis, it's a weirder history. You start with Dave Ellefson, and then Ellefson goes. And then you've got who is it that sits in for a bit? James McDonough from Iced Earth comes in, doesn't actually get to record an album, does the touring for 2 years. Then you get James Lomenzo's in, and he's in there for a few albums and a few tours. And then, funny enough, he basically gets fired to bring Ellefson, the guy that Mustaine had trashed all this time, back in. And then Ellefson gets fired and Lomenzo's brought back in to replace him. So it's like, what kind of weird, I can probably think of a less graphic term, but human centipede thing is going on here where it's like the guy I fired's replacement got fired so that he could replace the guy who I rehired. It's like, what is going on here? Like, how do you, I've never seen a band reconcile with past members like that in this weird circle thing going on. Very strange,
I find it really jarring because I guess for me, I'm not a person who likes change, and I feel like if I fired my first musician, bassist, whatever, I would keep the next person, and I wouldn't kick them out, to get the old one back. This feels like, again, with Ozzy Osbourne, money. Let's get the old band back together, and then the next best lineup was with Lomenzo, maybe. Let's get
Mhm.
Lomenzo back. And now he's the honorary Megadeth bassist. And it just feels like, I don't know, these reunion type things again. Well, let's get Lomenzo and that kind of thing.
Remember when,
Yeah.
but no, and it's the thing that kills me is always the interviews after. It's like, oh, it feels so good to be back home again with this band. Okay, that was Ellefson, and then now Lomenzo. Oh, it's so good to be back home at Megadeth. It's like, okay, guys, just stop. It's a gig for you at this point. But it's so weird. It's like, how do you have these levels of just acrimony and everything, and you break up, and then you get back together, and literally the guy who replaced you and then got fired to bring you back steps in to replace you. And then James McDonough just kind of lost to the mists of time here. Yeah, what a weird kind of thing. Like that one got me because I was like, I mean, who would see that? No way he would hire back the other bassist that got fired. Like out of all the bassists, really? Okay. That was the guy. Not that I'm begrudging Lomenzo, like fantastic, really good and solid bass player. Great, just solid. I've seen him live with Megadeth twice, killed it every time. So, no gripe on that one. But it's just, huh?
It's a weird environment. And I remember there was a documentary from me a few years ago called, I think it was Hired Gun, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Ellefson was in it, I recall. And I just remember the way he was speaking about Megadeth and his career was that he was a hired gun.
Mm-hmm.
And when you think about these big bands, you don't think about, like, for example, Robert Trujillo, you wouldn't call him a hired gun in Metallica. But Ellefson considered Megadeth to be a hired gig and that kind of thing. So it feels like everybody knows they're on thin ice and it can crack at any moment, that nobody's safe. And it just feels a bit unique to Megadeth. Like my next question was going to be, who are the guitarists? Because you're saying you can hear past Megadeth stuff in the guitars. I don't even know who their guitarists are. They too have changed so many times. I have no idea. And I get, that's how I struggle. I don't know what Megadeth's supposed to sound like in a guitar sense.
Well, it's because Megadeth is the Dave Mustaine project. That's it. I mean, when it comes to the songwriting, it's Dave Mustaine, period. So that's always going to be the consistency. It's not like the new guitar player is going to come on and all of a sudden they're going to write, totally differently because of this guy's stuff or something. I'm sure they probably contribute a riff here or there or something, but it's the Dave Mustaine project. That's it. So at least song and sound wise, he's the captain of the helm there. You're always going to get consistently, for better or worse, Megadeth. I always look at it as he hires lead guitar players. And that's what they are. He always hires the shredder for the band. The guy who's going to do a lot of the solos, the big guitar pyrotechnics, that type of thing. But yeah, I mean, they've been through a ton of them, but they go away. It's like once you've been fired or you quit or something, that's it. Like you don't come back. But the bass thing, man, that is just so weird. And yeah, I don't get that. Like why if you cut someone loose, you're like they become your first choice to go back to. It's like, do you not remember this? Do you? But yeah. I've never seen anything like it. It is so strange.
Do you think Megadeth would? I'm trying to. How can I phrase this? What would be more tangible to an audience, the Dave Mustaine project or Megadeth? Do you see what I mean? So, like, if he went solo and ditched Megadeth, what would you think would be more viable? Like him being a solo artist with officially hired guns, or hey, we're Megadeth and we're a band, and that more fraternal unity as you would expect from a band. Like, what do you think would be more appealing?
Oh, I mean, but that's the thing. Megadeth's legacy is Dave Mustaine. He's always been that guy. It's never been, in any of its iterations, a huge collaboration. It is Dave Mustaine solo is synonymous with Megadeth. That's just how that goes. So you're going to get basically the same result. I don't think at this point anybody goes, oh, a Dave Mustaine solo album. Like, what the hell are the rest of them?
That's true.
It's when you've had like 11 guitar players and 4 bassists, it's been you all along. You're the only consistent thread through it,
There was that VH1 Behind the Music thing about Megadeth. And there's a whole big interview about how Ellefson and Mustaine met. And of course, Mustaine did the usual thing about, and that's how David Ellefson joined my band. Fuck's sake, it's just such an arsehole. Not our band, not, So yeah, it's always been Mustaine. So I'm not too surprised by that.
Well, and out of fairness, it was because that was him. When he had some cachet and lineage in, he was part of Metallica.
Yeah.
And he announced he was going to start a new band. And, was going to be faster and heavier and everything else. And so he was already writing that music and doing that. And whoever else joined the band basically jumped in. I've talked with Chris Poland on a number of occasions. We used to hang out a little bit in LA and stuff. And, Megadeth was already a thing when he came into it. Some people don't know it, but on the first, even though the original Megadeth lineup is considered Dave Mustaine, Dave Ellefson, Chris Poland, and Gar Samuelson.
Mm-hmm.
But in the original iteration, Kerry King was the guitar player from Slayer.
Yep.
And, so it was already formed even when Chris Poland came in, and he was like, I heard the music and he was like a fusion rock guy. And he went like, let me see what I can bring to this thing. And he was kind of pulled in by Gar Samuelson saying, we should go do this. So even from the beginning, it's like, it's an already established thing. And that thing is Dave Mustaine. So yeah, I mean, there's some people you can lay like a critique at, about they take over a band or something, but he did create it. It is his sound from the beginning, and he was the steward of the ship, and you were hired on,
Yeah, I don't hold that against him. I think maybe it's right looking at it in that lens where he came from Metallica. It's like, well, this is mine. This will always be mine. This isn't like, let's start at the ground level and work together. It's like, I have a direction I want to take, and it's to beat Metallica. And that was the goal, really. I had a question in the sense of, I said that I can't remember the song. And I kind of feel like, what's the best way to ask this? There was some interesting parts to the song, but I wouldn't call it novel or new. It kind of felt like a good improvement upon stuff we've already heard. Do you feel like, I'm not pinning this on Megadeth, do you feel like a lot of metal music is just mundane and there's no novelty? Like you've heard this song a million times.
Yes.
Do you and
I feel
I
like right
guess
now that's most of metal right now.
I'm just trying to tie it back to Megadeth, and in the sense, like, it's definitely an improvement in terms of, oh, this is cool. I enjoy this. But again, there's just this familiarity.
Mm-hmm.
And basically, to make it a very low resolution statement, I can't discern this from any other band. And that's kind of why I don't pay attention too much. Like I said, it's a very low resolution statement. It's disingenuous at worst. What do you think in terms of novelty? Do you think it had anything new?
I feel like the end parts were new for Megadeth. Like I said, I can hear, even though they're callbacks, they're done in a slightly newer thing. Like some of the slower riffs, I can even hear "Take No Prisoners" from Rust in Peace. I can hear "Set the World Afire" off of "So Far, So Good, So What." I can hear the trademark Megadethisms, but they're done in a little bit more of a modern context. I feel like this is that having Dirk Verburen on drums has definitely pushed things that way, and that I think he can take some credit for kind of giving them a push, and his rhythmic style underneath of Mustaine gives it a different balance, and it's probably also, just made Mustaine's familiar riffs and how he plays have to change up a little bit to fit a more modern drum style. So I think, definitely some credit given there. I think that was probably, the influence of Chris Adler from Lamb of God around Dystopia is, probably about the same thing, and that they came back a little heavier. Like I said, I wasn't charmed by the album, but I was like, okay, at least it's delivered a bit. But I think definitely having someone who's been in more modern, aggressive, and extreme metal styles like Dirk has, playing under, whereas Mustaine's riffs may have gotten a bit more really sounding reminiscent of the past, that him having to play it over Dirk sets him off balance a little bit. So you get a little flavor of the new, or just a slightly different take, instead of, let's go back into the cool history of Megadeth type of thing.
I want to change gears a little bit and still keep on track with Megadeth. What's your take on Ellefson using those Jackson concept basses? Do you think they work for Megadeth?
I don't feel like a bass does or doesn't work. It's, does it sound good? Yeah, okay. It, at a certain point, if you're using the same EMG setup and you're putting it in all these basses, you're going to get, the kind of the same results.
Okay.
I know, well, on that note, and we could switch just a little bit, but I'll give this to Ellefson. That is one of the most prolific dudes. I like every goddamn time I turn on the internet, this guy's got something new going. It's either like he's involved in some kind of horror movie thing. He's got a coffee company. He's got a new band. Right. He had a band called The Lucid, which is a bit more almost like 90s rock type of thing. Apparently today, another new band. It's like, Jesus Christ, this guy comes up with bands faster than I can write songs. But they're advertising it as death metal, which I was surprised to see, because usually his projects outside of Megadeth aren't as heavy. I don't know if again, when I think of death metal, this isn't quite what I think of, but I hate that genre splitting crap. I'm like, if this is what they call themselves, cool. But he's doing a project with former members of Entombed and Decapitated. I was like, huh? I don't know if I have the pronunciation down. It's Deist, or I'm pretty sure it's not Deist, but it's Diest. And let me think. The song title is like "In the Hall of the Hanging Serpents." And yeah, it's heavy. It's in that vein. And what made me think of it was he's using the that Kelly bird
Yeah.
kind of explorer shape Kelly mix that he's doing. He's playing that in the video. And from what I saw, there was a little bit of studio footage, and I think he was using the concert bass in that one. So he's using it, for more extreme style music and stuff too. So seems to be working out. But yeah, I was really surprised to see him come out with a much heavier project like this. And I'm like, sure, dude, 71 bands, 500 songs. Yeah, I would love to know where the hell that energy is coming from. I like whatever it is, bottle it and send it to me, man. Yes.
He is probably the best person in Megadeth. Or I guess even ahead of Mustaine in terms of having a self-brand. He has 2 books, a coffee shop, effects pedals, different sponsorships with other effects pedals, and his own strings, and so many things, like the Harkey thing, the Jackson thing, EMG. He is a brand, and I can't think of any other bassist like that. You have people that have sponsorships and endorsements, fine, but he is a brand. David Ellefson has his own thing, and yeah, like you say, I don't know how he can just keep jumping from one thing to another, and it's prolific and it works.
Just insane. But that's interesting to see, him. It was almost like leaving Megadeth. He just went underground for a real short time and then just didn't lose his footing. Just came right back and started boom, 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 and just putting out stuff again. So yeah, I mean, hats off to him for that. He just does not let moss grow under his feet, man.
No.
But yeah, interesting to see him in, like I said, yet another band doing stuff in that style. So yeah, it's that's the weird thing too. And it's kind of funny when you look at Megadeth's guitar players. Obviously Marty Friedman has a career, solo thing. He's really prolific in Japan and stuff like that.
Sorry, can I just say, is that like the alternative B-side to Big in Japan? I'm prolific in Japan.
Yeah. But no, he does like tons of studio work over there and that kind of thing. Well, I mean, he lives there and everything, but he's got fingers in a number of pies over there, plus his own projects and things like that. But outside of that, the other guitar players that have left, it's like you don't hear much.
No.
And it's like Al Pitrelli, Chris Poland, he does side stuff, of course, has his band Ohm and things like that. But Chris Broderick seems to have kind of slid off the map to a big degree. Jeff Young is doing a couple reunion shows with Dave Ellefson. Geez, because he's everywhere. But, again, he kind of just wandered off into the mist. These guys seem to either get fired or leave the band, and you just don't hear much from a lot of them, with, one or two, exceptions. And then you have this revolving door bassist thing where it's like, Ellefson is in 91 bands all the time. Lomenzo is, he's got Black Label Society. He was doing like gigs everything from like Black Label to like John Fogerty, to like just, keeping the work going, stuff like that. McDonough has obviously Iced Earth, this type of thing. So it's like this revolving door of bass players that all still keep their work going and stuff like that keep coming in and out. And then these guitar players that get a one shot and you're done thing, who just seem to, wander off into the ether once their Megadeth time is done.
I'm surprised. I mean, guitar players are usually, they have more weighting in a band than bassists. Bassist seems to be easily replaceable. But I suppose for some reason, Ellefson carries a bigger name, and maybe to a degree Lomenzo too, that Mustaine is happy to have them back. Again, as a package kind of deal, like it's a draw, almost like a supporting artist. Megadeth now with Ellefson, Megadeth now with Lomenzo. It's kind of like that.
Yeah. It's kind of, like when they bring out new Coke or something, it's like Coke with new flavor. But, yeah, the whole thing is just so strange, but I'm curious to see how it works out, or, is how, the single is enough for me to go, I want to hear the rest of the album. So that's what it's supposed to do. And I think it kind of did that. And yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how it shapes up with Lomenzo and how the tour and stuff is met with that. From what I've heard, the shows are going okay. So,
oh, I have to say, I watched, I think it was a video from Hellfest. Megadeth playing. I turned it off after 2 minutes. I was just so bored. Like, oh god, I wasn't entertained at all. And they played Hangar 18 as their opening track, and I love Hangar 18. I could not bear to watch any longer. Mustaine was just like up close to the mic and mumbling away. So he just looks like Granddad's tired now. Come on, Granddad, we'll go to bed. Come on.
Dude, if you're trying to get some kind of making vocals any part of your choice about Megadeth, then you're in the wrong ballpark there. That has never been the thing. But everybody goes on about Rust in Peace. Amazing album, tons of stuff, but Peace sells, man. That album just, it is, to me, maybe the best speed metal album of all time. I mean, I just haven't heard high velocity stuff like that. I mean, the first time I heard Black Friday, I just almost wet my pants. There was just nothing like that. It keeps escalating and escalating and escalate. And it's a darker album. It's a more complex album. Yeah, that thing is just unreal. And, for me, people who can't get into Peace Sells are like people who tell me that they never liked any season of The Simpsons. It's like, I can't quite look at you the same way after that. I'm like, not even like the first seasons? Like, I get if you hate them now, they suck. But really, like season 2, no, like Treehouse of Horror, nothing? Okay. Yeah, well, I'll get back to you. I don't know. Yeah, to me, it's almost a prerequisite of being into any.
It helps
beyond classic metal. So, but that's my call. Also, I think the verdicts are in. We'll have to see what happens with the rest of the Megadeth album. I think we all know what's going to happen with the rest of the Ozzy album. And yeah, if you like watching car crashes. But hopefully we'll get some more from them. And I think it's going to wrap it for this section. So with that in mind, if you are here on YouTube, Rodney and Alfie Talk Metal is on all streaming platforms. And if you are on those streaming platforms, we are obviously on YouTube. So check us out there. Individual channels. Mine would be Rodney McGee. And
you can find me, Alfie Williams, on Witchbase. And that's Witch the question, not the old hag. I'm going to put that in the tagline. I think it helps.
You totally need a logo with a witch's hat on it.
Yeah.
So that's going to wrap it up. And we're going to go work on Alfie's new logo. And we will see you next time.
See you later.